Welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience and Other Phenomena. And we have a special series called Love Leader Lessons. And this episode is about love and romance. And this time, I actually interviewed separate love leaders and asked them about this topic. Most accepted and did talk about it. And you can see moving forward the type of things that we discuss. But I want to tell you a little bit about why I decided to do this. This is a big part of our lives, having a partner, a spouse, and being with that special somebody to create a beautiful life. So I wanted to ask people that have been married a long time some advice on that. And some of the people that have been married a long time is me. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. My husband's very shy. He does not want to come on. You'll see him on the chat, though, and he will interact. Everybody loves my husband, Clay. He's very sweet. But I have been with my husband since 19, and we have been married 30 something years. See, he's going to laugh about that because I'm always like the dude in the relationship together. But we've been together since 19, so since dating and then married. Maybe, I'm going to give my age away, so I don't want to say too much. This is 30-something years. So, has it always been bliss? No, but yeah, pretty much it has been. I'm very fortunate in that way. I met him when I was 19. And I was at Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he always makes fun. I was dating a lot of people. I was the cute girl in the school. I was dating a lot of people. Not really interested in anybody. Just kind of, he said, a free meal goes a long way. It has to be a really good meal. But we became friends in one of our classes, and I knew he was very unusual. I'm a creative person. I went to art school. I'm an artist. I do lots of things creatively. And I didn't really know that's a special kind of person. We think a certain way conceptually, and so was he. He was a musician and didn't really know that. I just knew that he was very genuine. And for years, those of you that don't know me, you'll know more about it with my book that comes out, Love from Heaven. And I talk about my 6 near-death experiences, but I talk about kind of what preludes that. Those experiences is that I did have some sexual abuse growing up from my stepdad, and there was some abuse going on. And so I feel like a puppy that before it became too damaged. That's why God allowed me to meet my husband at that point, because he really did show me what love is, and he still is so kind and gentle, and I could just tell him anything. And that's really the kind of person that you want, somebody that you can just say anything, that doesn't judge, that has this love, this patience and kindness. And he was just always genuine. Well, we've never lied to one another. That doesn't mean that things we've had to say to one another are always, pleasant. But I think if you frame things in a way that's loving and honest, people appreciate that. So we talked early on like classmates outside of class, and I would see him in lab class, and I asked one of the girls in the class, who is this guy? And she found out we had lab class because it was biology. I know that sounds so cheesy, doesn't it? And he said his name is Clay. I said, that's a weird name. Well, I think it's funny now because Clay, I'm the kind of person that really needs to be grounded. So Clay, the dirt, the earth, when I live in the clouds all the time, that's perfect for me. But I used to pray. One of my near-death experiences, like, God, just take me. I can't take this abuse anymore. Either, take me or take them. You just take me. I'm fine with that. And one of the times I had pneumonia, it was one of my big near-death experiences. I spent 3 days with Jesus. I had 15 minutes that I know I arrived dead at the hospital because they clocked me and I heard everything, code blue and all that. And I don't know how long that I was dead. I do know that I was put in a tent. And this was from my memory. And actually, my mom was shocked that I remembered all of this. It kind of shocked her because I was never told this. I even told her the hospital I went to, and she was like, yes, And so I was never told this. Maybe they were trying to protect me from the bad memory, but I remember everything on the TV and everything with that. So while I was there, I spent 3 days with Jesus in heaven, bonus for me. And he told me that I told him I can't come back to this world. It was just too cruel, too many mean people. And he had he wanted me to, bring love here, love leaders. And so I was like, I don't know. And then he said, well, there'll be other people doing it. I'm like, maybe. He said, well, I have someone that I'm bringing to you that'll make life a lot easier. And of course, I'm 5 years old, so I have no understanding of this. And years later, I know for a fact that it was him. I used to pray for a specific person. I said, I just need one person in the world to just love me for me and not think I'm odd, because I always spoke to spirit people. I always knew things. I had very in-depth spiritual gifts way early on, I think just for self-preservation, out-of-body experiences, spiritual experiences, remote viewing, not because I was trying to be all cool. It was because I was trying to survive. And so I would pray, God, just bring me one person that's kind, that's loving. And when I saw his eyes and heard his voice and saw how he was and how gentle, I knew this is a person that wouldn't hurt me. So he was dating someone else. I was dating other people, and we were friends. And then I used to be friends with his sister, Marcy, who now is a big person on my team God, who's a spirit person. She was a gorgeous woman. She was a model. And she just was beautiful and exotic looking. She was tall, lanky. She was a hairstylist too. And she just dripped sex appeal. I mean, she just couldn't help it. And she was a friend of mine. And we used to go dress up to these fancy bars, and we would go together. And I began telling her this guy that I like. And then then in the meantime, who knew, her brother was telling her about this cute girl. Well, come to find out, same person. That was it. And that happened to be, that was his sister, and we were good friends. So she kind of pushed that forward a little bit, and he was dating someone at the time, and his mom didn't like her and they liked me better. So they kind of pushed that forward. So everyone I look back on it, is that, even my mom helped with that, and Marcy helped with that, and his family helped kind of put us together. And we would, went off to East Carolina University to art school, got a degree in advertising and marketing. And he would come visit me, and his parents were, I guess kind of religious, but they didn't say anything. I guess they knew we were going to be together. But to be able to see someone grow up all these years from really a young boy, he wasn't a boy, but to a full man, and to see the challenges and so forth from a male perspective has been really a blessing. But we've grown a lot. I mean, I look back at me and the relationship, and I think about, I really wanted to prove myself, because I was told I would never make anything out of myself. Probably not a positive thing to tell a kid. You're just pretty. You just need to marry. No, not really good. So I really wanted to do well. So I was like an overachiever and got all my clients. It was my advertising business I created, and I had it for about 27 years, which is why you see these cool graphics and so forth. And so I had something to prove, had a chip on my shoulder, and I had an attitude. I did. I had an attitude. I had some anger issues because it was coming out, all the abuse. It comes out in pieces. And my husband was always kind of gentle and helped me through that. And I'm thinking, God help me. Why did he put up with that? So I learned to be, these years, like a wife. I didn't know. I didn't have wife school, and I learn how to be kind and respectful, and to cook, and to look out for him. And I didn't know how to do any of these things, and it was a learning process. But one of the things that I found is I didn't want to be with anyone but him, because we laughed together, and even though we're different, we had a lot of similarities. And I think the biggest thing in having a relationship is being friends. And then also being together so long is doing things to keep the spark up. And so we started, I guess about 10 years ago, flirting. So we make jokes that said, we're going to work on flirting. And it started out, he would go, blah, blah, blah. And I went, is that flirting? And he would go, yes. I'm like, that's horrible. You need to start over again. That's terrible. Because it really is an art to that. And then he started saying something. I said, oh, okay. And it got a little better, but it was a little too subtle. And so now we try to do flirting, but we just start laughing when we'll say something. And I said, was that flirting? I go, yeah, that was flirting. I said, okay, I think I got that. So it's something that that is just really a part of yourself, owning your own, you know, sexual energy or whatever that is, and keeping it for somebody special. But it's also a playfulness. And I think people get so serious in life, and it's important to be playful. And one of the things that my husband and I do personally, because everybody's being vulnerable here, so I'll tell you, is that we haven't done it in a while. So it's about time. But we'll move all the furniture, and we'll turn in the Soul Train channel, and we will do like Soul Train lines. And there are really bad dances. Like, they're really, really bad. They're not sexy at all. They're not good. But we get to laughing so hard that we just, you know, it's just a blast. And it is great exercise too. But we have a blast doing that. We both share a love of animals. We're both big dog people, love dogs, and we're dog parents. We never had kids. We did the career thing. And then I realize now that I just want to be of service, you know, to God and to others. And, you know, I'm working my way through that like anyone else, but through the changes of being an advertising executive. I've been a boutique store owner, did that for a while, where I designed jewelry pieces for a long time. I took jewelry actually when I was in college, one of the courses I took. And I did that, as well as design French Baroque furniture and do other things. I'm pretty creative. And so I had this real frou-frou boutique with like 1,500 square feet. And he helped me with that. He helped me paint the walls, fix the stuff up. And I was designing furniture. He'd help me haul that around. And everything I've done, he's been really supportive. And I think for me, he's kind of a grounding factor, whereas I think I'm just kind of always, you know, woo, trying something new. So, and he's jumping on that. And he's helped so much with this channel too, Clay. So I need to acknowledge him with that, with a lot of long hours and putting these videos together. And, you know, with me, I get the speakers, and I try to get quality people and nice people that you would enjoy. And then I, you know, have to do the promo and do that. And he helps me with the video edits. So I try to bring the quality that I can. I learn along the way what you guys like. But I think getting back to relationships, whether you're married or if you're special somebody, it's really about somebody who touches your heart and that you have fun with. And, you know, I think that spark of being attractive, that you kind of fall in love with who they are inside, because the package changes. You know, I'm not 19 anymore. Those years are gone. And so, you know, it changes. So you want someone to just love that person inside, and you fall in love with that core person, because, you know, that's the thing that stays. That's what stays. So, and it's important to line up with the same values. So even though we're different personalities, we do have the same values, and we do have similar spiritual values. He doesn't have exactly the same path and as verbal as me, but you know, we didn't used to pray together or things like that when we were younger, but we do now, and we come together when we need to. He's helped me with house blessings. I mean, he's pretty good sport and stuff. So, you know, I think it's really finding someone who touches you in your heart. And it may not be the person you think that you need, and it may not just be really based on looks. It's just something that touches you in your heart. And I feel like that when someone does that, you've known them probably in a lot of past lives too, because there's that connection, and you need to have that interconnection. Some people may look like, I don't see what you see in him, I don't see what you see in her, but it's not about that. It's about how you connect in your heart and the joy that you experience together, and together you can create something bigger. So unfortunately, people have games they play sometimes, and then they bring the kids in it, you know, and then you get the games with the kids. But it doesn't have to be all that. It's really quite simple. And as I was talking, you'll see here, and one of the people in the video with Howard Storm, I always kid, but it's true, that the best dating service you can get is eJesus. You tell him, write it on a paper, tell him what you want, and say that or something better. So I hope you enjoy the tips and the beautiful stories and marriage, dating suggestions from the love leaders that you see following. And just know that when someone makes you feel happy and they make you feel a better person than you think you are, you found your special somebody. Thank you, and much love to you guys. Enjoy. We have near-death experiencer Howard Storm here, and we're just talking about marriage or what makes a good relationship. And I just thought I would ask Howard, what makes a good relationship, maybe what to do, what not to do. Maybe there's some wisdom that you can pass to people that are re-entering the dating world. What do you recommend?
Well, I've had 2 marriages. The first one was 40 years, and she left me. I didn't want that to happen, but it did, because we went in our own separate directions. She's was and is a very successful attorney, really into the money and the success as an attorney. And my career path, from her perspective, was going all downhill, because I left a well-paying and prestigious position at a university as a professor and administrator, and I quit. Nobody quits that, because it's like a good job. And I went to seminary for 3 years so that I could serve little dying churches, which I did for 30 years.
Dying churches. Gave them life.
Well, they were dying when I got them, but we revived them. But anyways, the money was, my first church paid me 1/10 of what I was making at the university, and my first wife didn't like that. And she told me that if I went to seminary and became a pastor, she was going to divorce me, and she did.
Oh, well, she was good on her word.
Yeah. So when I think about what makes a good marriage, I performed about 250 weddings, and part of that deal was that I always did 3 consults with them before the rehearsal. And I would tell them, you really want to be friends. When I got married, sex was pretty much what I was thinking about, and we were good at that. We had that down real good, but we had a lot of things that we did not hold in common. Mm. And I think that it's really important that when you're looking for a life partner, you need to find someone where you have really good friends. That doesn't mean that you necessarily all like the exact same things. When you're married, you don't always have to get your own way. Matter of fact, part of the fun of marriage is appreciating the differences and giving in. Like, for example, where you're going to go on vacation. Like, this year we'll go where you want to go. Next year we'll go where I want to go. Right. This Christmas we'll visit your family. Next Christmas we'll visit my family. I mean, you can work these. Rational people can work this stuff out, and it's really fun. It's really fun to share in another person's joy. Yeah. That isn't necessarily what was the highest thing on your list, but it's what they really needed or wanted to do. So you look for a friend, and if you have a friend, the other stuff, like good times in the sack and things like that, are going to follow. If you just choose one thing, that's not. And I think that it's really, really important that spiritually you're on the same page. Now, I've been married to my second wife for 15 years. And what caused me to be interested in her in the first place was I was at a Al-Anon meeting, and she had a lead, and she told her, took approximately an hour, and told her spiritual journey. Which was, part of it was horrendous and awful. I mean, there were, like, everybody in the room was crying, and she went through some tough things. But what I found was, I was like, wow. I mean, I'm just speaking personally. I what to try. Here is this beautiful, broken woman who has done the work to try and heal. And I'm like, I'm a broken person. I'm trying to heal. We have a lot in common. So we started talking. Like, our dates were just like we'd meet before or after a meeting and talk. And then we had coffee. and we were talking and sharing our spiritual lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is the woman for me. And over time, we started holding hands. And then over time, we started kissing. And then after a while, we ended up in the sack together. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I found out what lovemaking really was. It was weird. I had a lot of girlfriends. I'd had sexual relations with a lot of women. And I never, ever known what lovemaking really was until I found a soulmate. So what I would like to stress, if you're really looking for a really good relationship, you look for the heart, not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're attracted to them, great, that's good. You know, I mean, physically attracted to them, that's nice stuff. But what you need is a soulmate, and then you find real love. And when you have a soulmate, you can get through anything. And we've been through some hard stuff. I mean, it hasn't been all like, easy. I mean, we've had a couple rough spots, but we get through them because we're both seeking the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I think that, things change, circumstances change. And, if you just go for looks, that changes. We get older, that changes.
Yep.
But if you go for the heart stays intact, the soul, the basic nature of that person. And, it's funny. I've been with my husband a long time. It was like 38 years. I was 12 years old. And, but anyway, we've been together a while. And, it's to me rewarding to see someone that I met as kind of a boy to grow into a mature grown man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me, it's a blessing to see that amazing evolution, because I've learned so much about like the opposite sex too, and seeing him develop and what he needs and the challenges and at the same time, he's still consistent like a flowing river. So to me, it's been a blessing to experience that. And it's been something that I can't really, no one could ever take that away. And it's beyond that. But we like to laugh a lot. We like to have fun. And he was a friend for a long time first. And then, then it evolved. And you're right. It's just a lot more than that. I think it's just a deeper rooted thing. It's like you're planting a better seed when you go for the heart and you go for, the values of that person and who they are. Mm-hmm. And you can, and especially loving someone that is broken. I mean, I was very vulnerable with him about my life and so forth, and he didn't turn away. He didn't run. Right. I think he saw that, he said, "You're genuine." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, and he says, "That's rare." I went, I don't know about that. Yeah. But, I guess there is some, quality that, you definitely do want to have honesty. I believe in a marriage. That's important. Even if it's not pleasant, even if it's, I think if you say everything with love, even if something unpleasant you need to discuss, if you say it in love with respect, you can say just about anything. But I think honesty is way high up there.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Absolutely.
Because there's things in life that come up, maybe outside of yourself, family issues or what have you, and you have to discuss uncomfortable stuff. And, you really do need a partner, a friend, and that. So, and then anything for people that are dating that you would recommend other than the heart, any don'ts or anything?
The thing that's really important in our relationship with Jesus is also true for marriage, and that is a commitment to it. It's really okay to get frustrated with Jesus. It's okay to even I'm not recommending it, but it's really okay to get mad at him and let him know that you're mad at him. Like, you have a big disappointment in life and like, Jesus, how could you let this happen to me? I thought you were like with me on this. I thought, I thought this is what you wanted. And like, it's a disaster. Everything's going wrong. You know what? he can handle it. He's way bigger than you think. He's way more generous, and like having that commitment to one person. This is our training for our relationship with God. Like I like to think that God has this idea that if we learn to really love and commit our lives with another person, that's going to evolve into our relationship with God. So I think that the microcosm of our love with our partner actually turns into the big giant macrocosm of our relationship with God.
Well, I never really thought about that, but I guess because it is the closest intimate relationship you kind of have here, with the person that you wake up and go to sleep with all the time, that does make sense. It kind of reminds me.
I like to wake up and go to sleep with God. I mean, I say a little prayer when I go to sleep, and I say a little prayer when I wake up. And you know what? You know, people tell me they have troubled by bad dreams. I never have bad dreams. You know, if you pray before you go to sleep, you're not going to have bad dreams.
You know, I do that every night because of that. Because I just want to, I said, Lord, you know, I just give you my love and just have me sleep peaceful. And I visualize angels all on the outside of my house, all in the inside. And I visualize in, you know, my room with angels. And I just thank God for all the blessings. And so I end it with God, and I get up with God and go, wow, I'm awake. You gave me breath. I have another day. Thank you. So it may sound too simple to people, but it is in the simple things. The fact that we're alive, you know, is still a miracle and a gift with every day. You were talking about that marriage being something that we can work toward to be, you know, with Christ. It makes me think of the book of Song of Solomon, and it's a love story. Preparing the children to be the bride of Christ. And it was so funny because not that I'm an expert in this, I'm not, but I've had a couple people go, they didn't understand like bride because they're looking in human terms. And one lady, I don't know why she said that. She goes, isn't that sexual? I went, ooh, gross. No, gross. I'm like, no, it's like a marriage. It's not a human sex thing. It is. It's like preparing the groom for, like, Jesus preparing his bride for the Father. So, but that to me is very intimate and tender, preparing us. I'm curious, what do you feel like that the Song of Solomon is to you?
Oh, I agree with you. I think it's that the euphoria and the ecstasy of love, which that psalm is trying to explain with metaphors of flowers and hair and clothes and things like that, is really what we ultimately want to feel with our love for God. But it's all metaphorical. I mean, you know, God in heaven and the glory of God in heaven, which I got some experience of in my near-death experience, is so beyond. It's very, very sensual and beautiful, but it's not in any way, shape, or form like the carnal stuff that we know in this world. It's way beyond that.
Absolutely. And it's funny, people ask me a lot, they said, well, what about, do they see each other in heaven that have been married, and is there sex? I'm like,
yes.
I'm like, they see each other to be married all the time. And a lot of times people, they do, and they wait for one another. Yeah, but it's not like here. It's more like euphoria, like a spiritual love connection. It's not like, you know, they don't go to heaven and have sex. It's a body thing here.
No, it's soul connecting. It's way more ecstatic. Right. One time I did a newspaper interview, and I said, you know, that relations in heaven are better than sex in this world, and they printed it. Oh, well, I shouldn't have used the sex word, because it's like, you know, people are going to start.
Oh boy, here it starts.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of people are hooked on that here, but and some people find that it's hard to imagine something better, but there is more of a euphoric.
Well, I need to correct you. You said a lot of people are hooked on it. All men. Oh, okay. Okay. I can't speak for women because I am not one of those creatures, but all men are hooked on sex. Yeah, you know.
Okay. So I don't know how to explain that it would be better there, but it's a soul thing. So that love does continue. I know that. And, the way I look at it too is that God created that romantic love, right? For people to be together. Like he created the puppy love, a love of a parent and child, love between friends. But he also created that in us, that romantic love. So why would that not be there when we cross over that person that we had a life with? That doesn't make sense to me. I guess it's God put that in us in the first place.
And I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but we're going to have that intense kind of love for everybody in heaven, and they're going to have it for us.
Yeah, I know. That's
way over the top.
Yeah, I know. That's why sometimes it's a little bit tough to be here. It's funny with a lot of near-death experiencers. Sometimes you have moments of sadness because you know how great it is there, and then you kind of go like, but it's not that there's not still love here and loving people. It's just not the same. Yeah. It's not the same euphoria and so forth. But that's why it is something to look forward to. I always tell Jesus, look, I can't wait to see you again. However, I'm really not into pain. So if you could just make that, just handle that. When it happens, just kind of handle that part. I'm not really into it a lot. And but other than that, I just want to be here and boom, hanging out with you. And so he must get a kick with the things we tell him. He must laugh a lot.
He thinks we're funny.
I think we're funny too sometimes. So, well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on marriage. And I agree. I think that going for the heart, being true to yourself, and finding your best friend. And what I always tell people to kind of wrap up on that, what I always say is if you're interested and you're dating, don't go to eHarmony. Don't go to go to eJesus. Tell him what you want. Write it down, because he is the best dating service. Right? Yeah. It works. Everybody I tell, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, it works. Tell him. That's what I did. I said exactly what I wanted, and I got exactly all of that. But they were common sense things. They were, like sense of humor, blah, blah. I wrote these things, but what was wild is he picked someone that has a simpler sense of humor. So we laugh at like little animal stuff or kid things, and we like doing the same thing. He knows how to do all that. So you just write down, someone maybe who likes to share the love of art, because my husband's creative, I'm creative, right? So not, he's different than me, but balancing. But I write it down and tell him, and then it will manifest. That's how it happened with me. Jesus, look, he's a good realtor. Jesus can do it. He wears a lot of hats. He's a good dating service. He's really good at a lot of things. I mean, he can. I mean, so I would recommend, if someone hasn't found that person, to really put it on a piece of paper and have a serious talk with Jesus and say, these are things that I'm thinking, but if you have something better, I'm just going to hand it to you, and I'm just wait, and I'm just going to thank you ahead of time for going ahead and delivering that person.
Mm-hmm. I quite agree.
Yeah, because he knows our heart and he knows our soul, and he could pick someone better, way better than we could. So, well, look, thank you so much, Howard. You are such a joy, and thank you for this time today.
It was great being with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Peter, you've been married. We got, when you get out the calculators, you've been, and understand, because I wasn't sure who's been married the longest, me or you but when we get out the calculators, you've been married a while. So I think it was, we'll just stick with 30 plus years. So I wanted to find out from someone who has been in a relationship, and we were talking pre-show that no relationship's perfect, but from the very beginning, and it's real work. But what are some things that people that are maybe entering the dating world, maybe they've been married, maybe and maybe for whatever reason now they're back in the game, or maybe someone younger and they want to talk to someone seasoned who's been in a relationship. What are the key things that you would tell people that you feel that if your younger self could tell your older self? What are things that you feel that you've learned about marriage, about yourself, and how to be a good husband? And what do you feel that are the ingredients that it takes to be successful in a marriage?
I think that there are lots of times in marriages where romantic love takes a back seat. And I can think of, for instance, when your first baby is born,
Oh yeah.
and suddenly, you're both exhausted and you're up all night for months on end, and romantic love, it kind of goes away.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't love each other. It just becomes more of a diligent love, a love where you've got to just do the things you have to do in order to keep, bread on the table, and the baby's diapers changed, and somebody's catching some sleep some point in some time. And so the idea that it's always going to be, I've done a lot of marriages, a lot of weddings in my life. I'm a clergy person.
Yes.
And that for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, those are real things. They're real things. And when you sign into a marriage, you're signing into not just the joy and the bliss and the lust and the buzz you get from each other. You're signing into the really difficult things. And that's where the diligence comes in, where you can go through a period in your marriage where for months at a time, you're kind of on parallel tracks and parallel worlds. And you're, a baby's born, I'm working full time. My wife left her work and she's raising the kid full time. And then another one comes along. And at the time the other one came along, I ended up in a wheelchair. And it,
Are you serious?
yeah, it's that guy that I told you about before. It was his son, and so I'm suddenly in a wheelchair, and I've got a 3-month-old baby and a 3-year-old child, and and life is very difficult for everybody. My poor wife, so there was not a whole heck of a lot of romantic love in our life for 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
It was just like, keep this train moving forward.
Yeah, you're right, because you had mouths to feed. You had 3 kids and you were in a wheelchair. How long were you in that wheelchair?
Two kids.
2 kids. You were in a
I was
wheelchair.
in this. I was in the wheelchair because I had a brand new baby, because I got assaulted and my leg was broken in the process, and I had to hold the baby. The reason I was in the wheelchair is because I had a brand new baby and I had to be able to carry the baby.
I got it. And you
right?
couldn't do it with a broken leg. Got
Nope.
it.
No, and so my neighbor, who's still he just got married again, wearing a kilt. He's probably, I'm gonna guess he's 78 years old.
Oh,
And I saw his picture on Facebook. And
too late.
yeah, it's great. It's great. And he lent me an electric wheelchair, and it made a huge difference in my life. But the point of what I'm trying to say is that when you're young and you're getting married, you don't think about all these things. You don't think that that your relationship with your spouse will radically change the moment that you become a parent. It will become a parent to you when you become a parent. How difficult your life is. How quickly things change, and so it's in the. I'm very interested in the stress points in a marriage. The bliss points in the marriage, they kind of take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
When you're having a good time with each other, it's pretty easy. It's the difficult places in a marriage that have captivated my thinking. Partly because I've lived through a whole bunch of them. You live through a whole bunch of them.
It's gonna happen. I don't care who you are. I don't care how well you get along.
Yep.
Life is going to happen even externally to you. It's going to, not to mention your own disagreements and your own internal stuff or disagreements with the way things go.
Yep. And being a near-death experiencer adds this other layer to it, because I am not of this world. And so my wife and everybody else I know.
First one that's actually admitted it. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that from you. I am not of this world. I love it.
I am not of this world. I'm not. I'm like the movie Avatar. I'm like in an avatar. That's how near-death experience isn't this thing that just happened to me.
Yeah, no,
it's the thing that is, it's still here.
Of course, you're living it. Yeah. And well, your whole mindset is different. You see things differently. It is difficult, but you know what, Peter, I've never asked that of my husband. I know I'm way out there. I know I'm a pain in the ass. I know I'm a handful. I'm demanding. I've got these passions and ideas, and I know he's so patient, but I know he's not like me. I know he doesn't see the things that I see, and I get it. I really, that's what you're saying.
That's what
There's
I'm
a
saying.
different operating thing going on here.
She's an IBM Selectric typewriter, and I am like the first handheld calculator. Like, where she's an, like totally different things.
Right.
And that creates conflict, right? And so, but I've been married for 3+ decades. And so how is it we're able to negotiate this when I'm headed in one direction and she's like, coming after me, or she's headed in a direction, I'm going after her. We're both going in opposite directions, which happens too. And so, but marriage for me has been like being in AA. And it's like every day I wake up and I say, I am married today. I am in this marriage today.
That's healthy.
And because I am an otherworldly person, material world is like secondary to me, and that's everything in the material world, including my body, including everybody around me. All right. I love my children. I love my wife. I love my parents. I protect them. I do well by them. I try to, do everything I can for them. But I know that it's all temporary, including them. And so I commit myself, like that whole time that between 1980 and 2015, when I died a second time, I prayed every single day of my life to go home. I do my meditation and I pray, God, take me home today. God, is today the day I get to go home? God, can I go home today? Can you just, free me from this place? I chose to come back here. Didn't know what I was getting into. Didn't understand the deal that I made. Lived into that. And part of living into that was having a family and having raising kids and sacrificing. Marriage is a lot about sacrifice. It's I sacrifice for you and you sacrifice for me, and somewhere in the middle we find this place where we both can support each other. So she cooks one night, I clean one night. She picks up the granddaughter. One night I get the granddaughter the next night. Always this sort of back and forth and working together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it seems more natural, and you can tell people that have been married a long time because, like, if you ever go to lunch, they'll start getting the utensils and putting it on the table, or they'll get the napkins. You go, oh, you've been married a long time, because you're so used to back and forth sharing and back and forth taking care of the other person, and it's just a ping pong kind of thing. But I think that we both have limitations, and I kind of know where my boundaries are. Like, there's certain things that I don't want to, the weird off land. If I get too esoteric, I'm like, sometimes I have to remember to be a person, and it's kind of a regular person, and it's kind of boring to me.
Yeah.
And we just sit here and watch. I'm going, look, that's that's what's needed here. And I need to, like you said, the avatar, you need to act, okay, how's it going? How was your day? And I'm obsessed with, this near-death experience, afterlife, God, all, what is all this? Why are we here? Spirituality kind of thing, topic. And I have to tell myself I need to shut it down.
I have to try. I try to pass for normal.
You're doing pretty good. Well, see, I'm the wrong person, because I think you're completely normal because you're like me. So I don't.
Well, right.
But we should ask
it's those other weirdos who are.
I think you're a great weirdo. But yeah, I have to. Oh, you want? Okay, we're gonna watch something together. Okay, it's not that. It's just that certain people need, and I know I'm a lot, and I got to look like, being around that, it's got to be difficult. So
It's got to be difficult.
it's got to be difficult being around someone who won't get off of something.
Yeah, passionate. NDE is the singular passion of my life. I've got other passions. I mean, I like to cycle. I like to sports. I'm individual sports for fitness kind of thing. But really, this near-death experience thing, it's you live it in your marriage because you can't help it.
You can't help it. But I would say, I'm going to take it a step further. I'll speak for myself. I think it's more of an obsession. Because I really, I'm always reading, I'm always talking to other people. It's part of who I am. And so I know that's not really healthy in the fact he's patient, he's interested. I think I'm like entertainment for him. But I have to tell myself, jerk myself back and say, look, this, I have to be a regular person.
Me too. I do the same thing.
And I know that, and I know that I'm a lot. What about people that are near-death experiencers? What is it? That when you have a near-death experience, 70+% of people don't stay together.
Get a divorce.
So, but think about it. Why? I mean, look, we're being honest. I know I'm a handful. I know I'm obsessed with this topic, and it's got to be difficult on the other person. So every now and then, for me, I'm like, what does he need? He needs for me to interact with him and act like a female. How about that? And so I have to tell myself, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that it's very difficult. I would imagine for people that have had this awakening and now they've got to go out and go into the world, which dating's difficult enough. And then how do they integrate? So I feel really glad that I'm lucky that someone that I say puts up with me, but it's not quite like that. But
no, but it feels, I hear you.
I mean, in my mind, a little bit, yeah, because I think I'm like a toddler on, steroids. I'm like, woo. And so I do think there's a lot of patience there. My
wife, if there was a word I was going to sum my wife up with, it would be that word, patience.
Yeah,
she's a saint of patience.
That's funny. I always say my husband's a saint, and people laugh, but they don't know. I'm a pain in the ass to be around. I mean, I'm like a kid, like woo,
think about this. You went to heaven.
That's so good.
It's like saying to Neil Armstrong, you went to the moon. So what? It's like.
I know.
Well, you went to heaven, and so and it leaves a person with this interior, obsession or attraction or relentless pursuit. I feel like I'm being relentlessly pursued.
Well, I want to feel that. I want that. I want that what I had, and I want to get it any way I can by simulating. I want that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I want.
Me too. That. And we are going to get that. It's just that it's not going to be now. We're going to get little bits of it now, but not like it. 1% of or 0.0001% out of 100%, or probably more zeros than that is what we get here, compared to what we're going to get there.
Yeah, I know. But in the meantime, I go, wow, there's so much to be thankful for being the human life that I have. There's so much gratitude that I have. Relatively healthy, my husband's healthy. I look at the thing, problems right now. We don't need to be a caregiver right now. Everything is fine, because you have moments where it could be years of just.
It can be years. Yep, it can be years. And so how do you live a spiritual life connected to the divine in the face of, say, for instance, elderly parents, and you have to give up your life and you have to move in with your parents for years? I have not had to do that, but I know people who have had to do that. How do you live your spiritual life in the face of suddenly you have imagine if you had a near-death experience and then you had a baby. And now you've got this conflict between you and not just the world, but a baby who
Wow.
needs you to be totally in the world. So how do you balance between these two places? And that's
Wow.
what my marriage has been. How do I balance between these two worlds? And my wife has helped me balance in the world. With when I married her, my dad, one of the things my dad said to me is, "Thank God you've been such a helium balloon lately." This is like the past since my near-death experience, you know. And he didn't know. I kept this a secret for all those years. And but my behavior was not a secret. What I was saying was not a secret, just what caused it was a secret. And so everybody kind of knew what happened to Peter. What the heck? And so her counterpoint in the way she's detail oriented, the way she's math oriented, the way she's organizationally oriented is a counterpoint to my sort of other things that I bring to the marriage, which are fun for one thing. And
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm entertaining. I feel like I'm
entertaining. All right, I bring fun, right?
Like you just said that out of your mouth, because I'm like much more animated than I become on here. So, and I like dancing around to say what I just don't care. I just like it. I think he's more reserved, but he holds it together for us. He's grounding, which lets me go off and be zany, I guess, or do whatever I need to do, but I hear you on that. I think that's what I bring to it, is entertainment.
This is love again. This is the balance of a marriage where individuals have strengths and weaknesses, and you combine these strengths and weaknesses, and you accept the other person for who they are. You can't. I was not going to, no matter how many flashcards I saw in 4th grade for multiplication tables, I am still not ever going to know my 9s tables. It's just not good. It doesn't happen in all these years. It's not going to happen. And no matter how many people want that to happen, that's not going to happen. You can't change a person. You can't change them. And in a marriage, what you can do, though, is you can love them for who they are and accept the gifts that they bring to the marriage and see if they're good for you. If those gifts are good for you and you have an exchange, then you get this thing going on,
I agree. I think that is actually the perfect answer, because their needs combined with your needs, is it a mesh? Because, right? Is it a mesh? I mean, what is it and I think it comes down to really knowing who you are and what you need. I mean, for me, I don't think it was ever a secret early on, and it's still important to me. I like consistency, even though I can be consistent. I'm consistent in a lot of ways, but I'm also excitable, combustible. But I know that I needed that. I needed someone who one day wasn't going to flake and goes to the 7-Eleven and never comes back. I need someone who was going to be that I was okay with, like, even almost like, oh, I know what they're going to say about this. I like that. I like the calmness. I knew I needed someone calm, really calm.
I needed somebody calm.
I knew certain things early on. I knew I needed stability, calmness, kindness, someone who was generous. Patience is at the extreme top of the list for me, and not judgy. And I will say the biggest thing to me that I think is a problem with marriages, relationships, is when the other person tries to put their thought processes on them. And that's different than saying, I'm thinking this, what do you feel? Mm-hmm. But put their thought process, or try to stop them in their spiritual growth, you're going to have a problem. He's always, he says, no, I trust you. You know what you want. But he's always supported me in all my ventures. And he'll go, that's great. Unless I ask him directly, can you help with this? He's like, he's always supportive. And I think you should be supportive of one another, because you have to allow people to grow, because you're going to grow. You're going to change. It's going to happen. And either you're going to do it together or apart. And I always say, if you have to do it apart, that's okay too. Meaning, some people aren't meant to grow together. They're there for a certain point in time, and then they go, different ways, as long as you love them. But sometimes if you love that person enough, instead of blaming them, allow them to go their own way. So to me, it's almost a miracle. It's like stars and the galaxy coming together, how someone can stay together so long,
Yeah.
because any random thing could just kind of shoot it off a different, it is kind of a miracle to me that people stay together for a while, including myself. I've been together with my husband about the same amount of time, and it could have gone the other way.
A dozen different times.
Yeah.
And then you what you do is you decide what you want. What do you want, and what's at risk, and what has value to you, and then you make decisions, and that's during the hard times of marriage that you make those choices, because marriage is a combination of joy and suffering, and it's not, it is, and it's
It is.
and sometimes you cause that suffering in the other person, and sometimes they cause it in you. But I think you're right. You if you go into a marriage thinking you're going to change somebody,
Never gonna.
you got another thing coming. And that's the other thing that I wanted to mention, is that get to know your person. Get really, one of the advantages that there used to be back in the old country, back in Europe, back before we had great mobility in this country, is that most people got married to people they knew. And so there wasn't all this, or their families knew each other, or you could vet people. You could find out who they actually are when the charm wears off. So, and that's a danger in this world that I didn't face. I mean, I didn't know my wife's family. But we're both from Boston, and Boston's a small town. Eventually we found people that knew each other, and a guy I went to high school with, and her brother, and you betcha I vetted her. I vetted him, and I vetted her.
My husband went to school in Boston.
Pardon?
My husband went to school in Boston, Berkeley School of Music.
Oh, that's a good school. I'm from outside of Boston. I'm from 495. Out that way. But Boston's a small town. My dad worked in Boston, and what I mean is that the community was small enough for me to reach out to try to find somebody who I might be able to say, hey, Joe, do you know these guys? What do you know about these guys? And so then I can get it. I'm not going into the relationship blind. Somebody feeding me a line, I'm this person. It turns out you're not that person 6 months into it. You're somebody else.
Especially these days with the online dating and all that. I don't really know what I think about that. I'm not against anything, but I will tell you, it's just, look, I didn't plan it, but I was friends with my husband's sister. We were actually friends. And we used to, go out and go do what the girls do, dress up, go to the bars and stuff. She was a beautiful woman, very funny though, a hairstylist, but a model. And I would tell her, there's this guy, and he's just so cool. I could talk to hours with this guy, hours at school. And he had just come back from Boston, and he was in Charlotte and at the community college. And I said, yeah, I see him in class, and he's just so smart. We could just talk. He's so easy to talk to. And then her brother was telling her about this girl. I know, isn't that weird? It's a big city. It's like 3.5 million people, and it happened. Of course, I don't believe in coincidences, and it was the same person. And the odds of that, today we're going, the odds of that are really strange. But I ended up getting to know his family, and then they ended up getting to know my grandparents were more close to his family. Now, my mom and dad were not like his family, because one was like wild party hippiers from broadcast days, and the others were more religious. They didn't really hit it off, but we all knew each other, and there was a lot of dynamics with the family, and so I did know about him from different angles and different people, and it does help to vet someone. And I personally, if it were me, you want to have someone has common interest as you. They don't have to be you, but they want to have certain common interests. And I think the best thing that I would do if I was someone that was dating, I would go, hey, well, first of all, I wouldn't probably be looking, but if I found somebody interesting, I would say, hey, what do you know about them?
Yeah.
Then and then they would go, they're a pretty nice guy, or a pretty, or they go, hey, they've been through 5 marriages, they've got some issues. I go, thanks.
Right.
And then stay away, because I don't think on the computer, I don't know. I mean, you might can vet someone, and I know people get married that way, but I would have to totally vet someone.
And get, or short of that, if you can't vet somebody because the way circumstances work, which I agree with you, I would rather vet somebody. I vet pretty much everybody I work with professionally.
Me too, yeah.
You gotta. And so short of that, really get to know them. Like really get to know them and get to know the people around them. Because when you get to know the people around them, then you get to know them a little bit better too. So young people, young in a relationship, do your homework. That's really what it is. Because if you're going to get married, it's the rest of your life. It's a serious commitment. You know, you don't enter into marriage lightly. You enter into marriage with all seriousness. And that's not solemnity. Solemnity is, you know, being solemn about it. But seriousness, you can be funny and serious at the same time, but you got to be serious about it, because if you're not, you could end up in a situation with a narcissist. You could end up in a situation with an abuser. You could end up in a situation with somebody who refuses to work for the rest of their lives. You know, who knows?
Yeah. No, absolutely. All those things and more. But I do like that once you realize they have these, you vet them, they have these traits, you have these traits, they seem to mesh well. You talk about important key things.
You
know, whether it's kids, religion. I mean, you know, you want to make, if they're an atheist and you're on a spiritual journey, might not work.
Right.
I mean, you got, you know, key things. And then at that point, once you decide, I think that once you enter in a marriage, you have to decide every day if you want to stay in that marriage. And I like what you said. It really is a decision. Yes, today I'm going to give 100%. And every day you decide. I think that some people don't really realize they're in a relationship. I know that sounds crazy, but they could be married for years and they don't really get it. I'm like, no, you're in that. And I think knowing that, hopefully, knock on wood, I don't think I've ever disrespected my husband, because I always think like, what would he think? Or if I was always, you know, I never went off with men alone, even in business. You know, I always try to be like, I'm married. You know what I mean? He wouldn't like that. So I try to be considerate of the other person. So those kind of things, like your behavior that you had single, can't really do. It's probably not the best idea to do certain things when you get married.
True. So
your behavior, I think, definitely changes. Well, look, thank you for this time on mentioning what you think that's healthy in a relationship, and a lot of it's common sense. But you're right. I like the vetting. I like getting to know the person, getting to know their friends, really getting to know what you're agreeing to and what you're about to enter. And then marriage is a whole different other step. And you're right. It is a combination of joy and suffering. But I have learned, I'll say this, I have learned so much about myself through the other person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that, to me, I feel blessed to have been in a relationship, because I've seen him as a young person grow into a full man, and I've seen him develop and get confidence and do all these things. And to me, it's like exciting to see this person develop in front of me and to like a real person. And it's like, wow, you know, because I'm not a guy this time, and I get to see him like go into the stages of the manhood thing. And it's been really, and assert himself. And now I hear the way he talks, and he can and I was like, wow, that's a long way from when he was 22. So
yeah.
And I love that he owns who he is now, and he still has the still kindness and all that, but he's got that assertiveness, and that's just something with maturity, and to be able to go through that. So, well, thank you so much for your time today, Peter. You
Thanks,
always
Tamara.
have so much wisdom to pass along to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tamara. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. We have Ingrid Honkala here today, and I'm very excited. And she's going to talk to us about, you know, you've been married 18 years. And so for people that maybe that want to have some advice, that are dating or re-entering the dating world, what is it that you think keeps a good relationship, a good marriage? And also any tips for the ladies on any flirting techniques or tips?
I always say that, and I keep repeating it in all my talks, but this is what I feel within. For anything that you do in your life, learn to quiet and calm your mind. If you're a person that is in that place of calmness, the people around you is going to be with you in that place and a space of calmness. So I always say, just learn learn to choose, learn to choose from within what feels right with the person even that you want to go out with.
Right, the inner voice, like that
Inner
first thing you get, usually like, oh, they're not trustworthy. That first thing is usually right. You're saying trust your inner knowingness.
Exactly. And if you're always going to that place of connecting with your inner guidance, you're not going to be wrong, because you're what feels right in my heart. And this is the other thing, that with anybody that we know, with a person, especially with the person we're going to date, or the person we're going to marry, is always go to that place of knowing I'm coming from a place of needing, or I'm going from a place of wanting. Usually when you're coming from a place of needing something, is because you feel that you're lacking something, that you are not enough, and that you need to fill a space with something else. So you're needing. And when you come from needing is also tainted with fear. You're coming from a place, I need this because I'm not
highest good.
So when you come from that place, you're usually going to be in relationships that are more challenging.
Yeah, to say the least. So tell me, after
a challenge, but if you're coming from the place of wanting, the place that you really feel plentiful, you feel enough, you feel calm, you feel great. Wow, now it's a desire. You want to meet someone. It's a very different place. You're coming from this place of, I want to share my goodness, my life, my calmness, my joy. That's a completely different.
It is. It's true, because people that feel like they have to be with someone, or this craving need, they usually attract the wrong kind of person. So when someone just surrenders and listens to that inner voice, what are some tips just as far as being married for so long? What do you think that's helpful to have a long, happy marriage?
Sometimes it's understanding, and it's just, one time, to give just an example of life. One day I remember my husband came, and he was just having a bad day, and at that moment I couldn't understand what was happening, and we had a little argument, and then he left. I was here, and the beings of light at that moment say, what is he needing now? Just presence, just love. Just love. Yeah. And I just went quiet within, and then he was sitting in the couch there watching something. I just sat next to him, and I just held his hand. Didn't say a word, but because I decided to make the decision of, just Ingrid, go quiet within and see what happened. People ask me like this difference between science and spirituality. And I said, spirituality is science. Because it's just go do it. Practice that love, practice that patience, that compassion, and just go see what happened. So that's what I did. I sat next to him, I held his hand, I didn't say a word, and just brought that space of calmness, of love, and he felt it. And a minute later, he was already smiling, and we were talking again, and nothing of that really happened. So I said, it's just understanding each other, is just being patient with ourselves, and being again that light of love, that light of peace, that light of joy, and then everybody around you will feel it, not just your husband, but your children and your friends. And
that's true. Well, it's also, you were patient, and sometimes people get upset, my husband's a pretty calm person, but there's a couple times he'll get upset, not really at me. And I just realized, let him be that way, and just and be patient, and just listen. And usually, it's fine. So I think it has to do with also knowing and appreciating the person you're with. You love them so much, you're willing to go through things with them if they need to experience it. You are too.
That's beautiful. Is allow others to be. And again, go manage your own business. Don't in the sense of like, where are you? There was a moment where people asked me, like, if my husband knew that I had all these abilities, and I could communicate with beings of light, and I could do all these things. And I said, oh, no, he didn't know any of these, like for the first 11 years of our marriage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said, like, really? And I said, oh, I mean, he's so grounded in this world. When I met him, and I was working as a scientist, and he met me in a war zone, I think he would have run away if I tell him, oh, I thought like,
Yeah, that's true. I could see that.
So I just kept, and at the time I wasn't talking about this.
Yeah.
I was keeping all this for myself until just recently, but I just always kept all these spiritual experiences for myself. But finally, there was a moment where I was writing my book, where all this was happening, and I'm like, whoa, I felt like the sense I am ready to serve. And then one day we were sitting in a cafeteria, and I said to him, would you think that I'm crazy if I tell you that I can see beings of light, and that I knew that I was going to marry you since I was a little child? And he looked at me with just his big eyes, and he said, and this is the most beautiful thing. He said to me, Ingrid, after knowing you for 11 years, so look at how this part of being that is so crucial. He said, and knowing the mom you are, the wife you are, the loving person you are, how compassionate, and on top of that, the scientist you are, how grounded you are in this world. If you tell me that you can move mountains, I believe you. He said, if anyone here is crazy, that's me, he said. So look when
wow, you got a good one.
He's amazing. So look at but look at that, Tamara, when we are that, like we walk our talk. He didn't need any proof. Like he said, Ingrid, you proved to me for 11 years who you are.
Right.
So I don't need that you tell me, I already know who you are. It's not a belief, it's a knowing. I know you. So you can tell me now that you see all these things, and there's no reason for me not to believe you.
You know, this is really funny. We keep mirroring one another, but the same thing was with me. You know, I could talk to people that have crossed over into heaven, into Jesus. And I had this I've been so used to hiding this, because my NDE was a child too. You know, my first big one was 3. So, you know, the same thing. So I got to know my husband. I think I was 19, going off to college, and I had met him at a community college, and he was coming back from college because he was older, and we immediately hit it off. And I never met anyone like him. He was very, very kind, very intelligent. And I mean, I knew that there was just no one I was interested in, but I just was more interested in him as a person. I didn't really think about, you know, marriage or anything. I was just fascinated by him. But anyway, we ended up, you know, we dated, stayed together. We've been together a long time. But it came out years later, and I said, what do you think about this? I was really nervous. He said, I've always known you've been like that. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, by the way you talk. He said, it's quite natural to me, because it's the way you talk. I already see how sensitive you are to people and how you pick up on things. To me, it's a natural evolution. He said, I always knew that about you. He said, if you want to pursue it to help other people, then I'll support you. So he was like really nice about it. My family kind of, you know, poo-pooed it off. They thought it was a little strange, but then they even admitted, oh, you've always been like this. And so now they're going to have to deal with it publicly. But he was very gentle and loving too. And he's like, I already know this about you. That's what I like. You're different. So I was like, okay. So I really feel that everybody has a perfect somebody out there somewhere.
See, and we give each other a space, and we let the other be, and we're just creating the best relationship. Yes.
And the other thing is too, you mentioned your husband was grounded. Mine's very grounded, and he's very logical, grounded, but he's also, you know, open, sensitive to things. I need that. I live in I live in the clouds with the angels and the unicorns. And I need like a normal person.
I think it's same here. I mean, like to me, like I am in the clouds and he is my anchor. If it wasn't for
exactly.
balloon that already just left.
It's funny because people would think, oh, there would be someone like that. I would be with someone like me. I'm like, no, I need to be pulled back down to sometimes reality because I do so much work with spirit, and it's just my way my mind works. I always live in the clouds, and that's why I lose my keys a lot of times. I'm always in the clouds, and so he is the one that's like my rock. And it's funny. My husband's name is Clay, which is literally like dirt, clay, the ground. Isn't that funny?
So imagine how this is beautiful, how life brings us to balance, to the place of balance.
And the balance.
That's
and not to mention that what we probably bring our husbands, because I know at the very least, he's very entertained by the things that come up in my life.
Yes, and as they are grounding us, we're bringing to them this whole spirituality and the depthness, and maybe they may not understand it or take it, but we're planting this seed in them.
Yeah, I don't tell anyone to think a certain way. Right, I just do me, and he's okay with that. And he does him, and I'm okay with that. And
don't do anything, just be who we are.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for sharing some more nuggets of wisdom, especially about relationships and for his marriage. And it is about being kind and having grace and compromise, and back to you be you, and then let them be themselves, and it's okay, and to love the differences.
And before we go, is like learn to see the good in each other, the good in each person. That good, then sometimes you can, okay, I can be patient with that, because you just already seen the core of the goodness of that person.
I think you're right. I think it has to do with intent, and if you can see straight through to their heart. Little things my husband does. I know he's doing it, trying to please me. He'll clean the house. I wanted a porch. He'll do that. But people show love different ways, and he's just inside very kind. And so I kind of see the pureness of his soul is so genuine and so real. And you don't see that with everybody. A lot of times people aren't real with themselves, and they're not very genuine. But he is, and I love how he is with me, but how kind he is to other people, and little things he does for other people to show love.
That's the way my husband is too. Is like, and there's not a place where I don't go and they say, oh, he talks so amazing about you.
I know my husband does with me. Yeah.
Need a husband that talks so amazingly well about his wife.
Yeah.
That's just that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it comes down to also liking each other. We years ago, my husband, I went to one of his work parties. Now he's with a big corporation, but anyway, and people kept looking. And he says, "You actually like each other," because we'd laugh at each other, joke, and we would laugh, and we were near one another. And I always try to treat him respectfully. He's the man. I like that he's so much taller. I'm like shorter and all that, more feminine. But he said that you like each other, and we're like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Why would you marry someone you didn't like and like to spend time with? So we actually like laughing and hanging out with one another. He makes me laugh.
Connection, yes, exact same thing here. So we hope this for everyone, and each one of us is presenting a path of challenge and a path of learning and a path, but always I say to people, go within. To make any decision in your life, go within and make that list, write it down. How does it feel? Am I coming from a place of fear? Am I coming from a place of love? And just always get that answers from your heart, and then you will know what to do.
Whether it's romance, career, children, whatever, if you listen to that inner voice and what feels right and what just flows beautifully in your heart, you can never make a decision. And it may be the person's totally opposite from you, but maybe it's exactly what you need. And I also trust God in that way too. God knows our hearts and knows what we need more than we do. So thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. You are a beautiful soul, and I just wish you much love and success. Thank you so much, Ingrid.
Thank you so much. All my love.
Good luck to you. Namaste.